Amber pointed to the corner bookcase near the dining room window. Every shelf was covered with an odd assortment of vases. My sister has an interesting sense of humor. Miranda lives in Biloxi, Mississippi, and I have no idea where she finds such unusual vases. Larry's gaze shifted from the newest bouquet, raked over the large purple pig container, then flitted to the bookcase and back again. Finally, he shook his head and muttered something that sounded like, "Women." "Do you have time for a soda or some tea?" "No, I need to get back. My boss likes supervision on the property at all times." "Indeed I do," Amber agreed as she walked him back out to the front porch. "You haven't outgrown this house yet?" Larry stared at the tiny yard, the one-car detached garage, and the porch that was barely big enough for the 2 rockers she'd placed on it. Outgrown the Dowdy house? Never. Amber loved her home. She thanked God for it every night. It was exactly the right size for her and Leo. The home was part of her salary package, provided by the owners of the village, and it was situated close enough to the offices that she could walk to work when the weather was pleasant. Larry shrugged as he stepped off her porch and made his way down her front walk. He'd driven the golf cart over, a vehicle available to both of them, though mostly Larry used it. He checked each store after closing, and the golf cart allowed him to move more quickly around the village property. Amber followed him to the cart and was about to wave goodbye when a vintage blue and white pickup truck squealed out of the village parking lot and down the road. They both turned to stare after Ethan Gray. He was the manager of A Simple Blend, one of the shops that circled the small pond at the village. Ethan accelerated the truck down the road, switching into the oncoming lane to pass a slow-moving sedan. Something wrong with Ethan? Amber turned back toward Larry as she asked the question. For a brief moment, she caught his unguarded expression. What looked to be a combination of distaste, resentment, and an odd sort of satisfaction. Could those things be contained in one look? Yet Amber was certain those were the emotions playing out across his face. "Larry?" Her assistant manager blinked and then plastered a smile on his face. Starting up the golf cart, he muttered, "Best get back." He ignored her first question completely and acted as if he hadn't seen Ethan's mad race out of the village parking lot. Larry gave her a friendly wave and backed carefully out of her driveway. The Dowdy house was located on a small rise a short distance from the main village property, so she was able to watch the progress of the cart as Larry made his way out onto the road and then back onto the village property. He stopped and spoke with a parking attendant, though she couldn't see who this was, and then continued up to the main building in the village, which housed the inn and the conference center. Amber tucked her shoulder-length brown hair behind her ears. Perhaps she'd imagined the expression on Larry's face, but she certainly had not dreamed up Ethan's strange exit. What was going on? Leo had followed them out onto the porch. The lanky cat stretched and then sat on the welcome mat, his paws tucked beneath him. Amber settled beside him on the porch steps and tried to figure out what had just happened. The last thing she needed at the village was for 2 of her employees to be engaged in some sort of battle. Chapter 1. April 21st, 1 week later. Hannah Troyer's Monday morning was off to a wonderful start. She'd turned 22 the day before and was still feeling the joy of a new year. Nothing had gone wrong so far. No fights with her siblings, no disagreements with her parents, and no disastrous discussions with the 2 boys who seemed interested in courting her. Everything was perfect. She'd ridden her bicycle from her parents' home to the Amish Artisan village, pedaling through the April morning along the Pumpkin Vine Trail. The trail had been under construction by the town of Middlebury for some time. The portion that passed near her parents' home had been completed the previous year. She'd heard it would soon run from Elkhart all the way to Shipshawana. Although horses weren't allowed, it offered a wonderful path to travel while walking or biking. The weather was cool but not cold. The green ash, American holly, and crabapple trees had all leafed out nicely into a dazzling display of green. She passed a few neighbors while riding, a few but not too many, and she did feel pretty in her new lilac-colored dress and white prayer cup. Not that she was going to focus on her looks this year. Vanity was a sin, one she struggled with of late, perhaps because of her age, or maybe because it seemed that boys suddenly acted differently around her. It wasn't so much that she thought she was beautiful. With her plain color